Commander Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the New Horizon, drinking his morning coffee. The ship was 3 days out from Earth, heading toward the outer rim of human space. It was supposed to be a quiet patrol mission. Nothing exciting. Just checking on the old monitoring stations and making sure everything was working properly. The coffee was still hot when the alarm started ringing. Morrison put down his cup and looked at the main screen. His communications officer, Lieutenant Danny Price, was already working at his station. "What do we have, Price?" Morrison asked, walking over to see what was happening. "Sir, we're getting a signal from the Deep Space Monitoring Station at Kepler 442. It's not a normal report. They're saying they picked up something strange." Morrison frowned. The monitoring stations were built to watch for asteroids and other space hazards. They sometimes picked up old radio signals from Earth or background radiation from distant stars, but they rarely found anything that would make them send an urgent message. "Put them through," Morrison said. The main screen flickered, and the face of Station Commander Helen Brooks appeared. She looked worried, which was unusual for Brooks. She had been running deep space stations for 15 years and had seen everything. "Commander Morrison, thank goodness you're close by. We picked up something about 6 hours ago. It's definitely artificial, but it's not from any human ship or station." Morrison felt his heart beat faster. First contact protocols started running through his mind. Humanity had been expanding into space for over a century, but they had never found any sign of intelligent alien life. There had been rumors and theories, but nothing solid. "What kind of signal are we talking about, Brooks?" "It's a repeating pattern of electromagnetic pulses. Very complex, but there's definitely math involved. Our computers have been trying to decode it, but we need someone with more experience. I think you should bring Dr. Lisa Grant with you." Morrison nodded. Dr. Grant was the best xenolinguistics expert in the human fleet. She had spent her whole career preparing for the day when humanity might encounter alien intelligence. If anyone could figure out what the signal meant, it was her. "Send us the coordinates and all your data," Morrison told Brooks. "We'll be there in 18 hours. As soon as the connection ended, Morrison called his senior staff to the bridge. Captain Ryan Brooks, his second-in-command, arrived first. Then came Dr. Grant, looking excited despite being woken up early. Chief Engineer Pete Collins and Medical Officer Dr. Amy Rodriguez completed the group. "Ladies and gentlemen, we may have just received the first confirmed alien signal in human history," Morrison announced. The bridge went quiet. Even the normal sounds of the ship seemed to stop. Dr. Grant spoke first. "Commander, I've been preparing for this moment my entire career. If this is really an alien signal, we need to be very careful about how we respond." "What do you mean?" asked Captain Brooks. "First contact is the most important moment in the history of any species. How we handle it could determine whether we make friends or enemies. We need to follow all the protocols and take our time to understand what we're dealing with." Morrison agreed. Humanity had developed detailed first contact procedures, but they had never been tested with a real alien signal. The rules were simple. Listen first, understand second, respond third. Never make assumptions about alien intentions or capabilities. 18-hour journey to the monitoring station felt like the longest trip of Morrison's life. Dr. Grant spent most of the time studying the signal data, trying to find patterns. Collins worked on upgrading the ship's communication systems, just in case they needed to send a response. Dr. Rodriguez reviewed her medical supplies, thinking about the possibility of treating unknown alien biology when they finally arrived. At the monitoring station, Dr. Grant had news. "Commander, I've been analyzing the signal for the past 16 hours. It's definitely mathematical, and it's definitely artificial. But more importantly, I think it's a distress call." Morrison felt his stomach drop. A distress call meant that somewhere out there, alien beings were in trouble. It also meant that humanity's first contact with alien intelligence might involve a rescue mission. "Are you sure?" he asked. "The mathematical patterns are similar to universal concepts we've theorized about. The signal repeats every 4.7 minutes, and each repetition gets slightly weaker. That suggests whatever is sending it is running out of power." There are also elements that seem to indicate urgency and a request for help. Captain Brooks pulled up the star charts. The signal is coming from a location about 2 light years from here. It's an empty system, no planets, just a red dwarf star and some asteroids. Morrison made his decision. Set course for the signal. Source, maximum speed. The journey took another 30 hours. During that time, Dr. Grant continued working on the signal, trying to understand more about whoever was sending it. She discovered that the mathematics were incredibly advanced, far beyond anything humans had developed. Whoever these aliens were, they were much more technologically sophisticated than humanity. As they approached the source of the signal, their sensors began picking up something incredible. Captain Brooks was the first to see it on the long-range scanners. "Commander, you need to see this," he said, his voice filled with amazement. Morrison looked at the scanner display and couldn't believe what he was seeing. Floating in space were 12 massive ships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. They were unlike any human vessel, with smooth, organic curves that made them look almost alive. "Those ships are huge," Dr. Rodriguez whispered. "Each one must be at least 5 kilometers long." Collins was studying the energy readings. "Sir, their power levels are very low. Whatever happened to them, they've been drifting here for a long time." As they got closer, more details became visible. The alien ships had a strange biological appearance. Their hulls seemed to pulse with a faint light, like they were breathing. There were no obvious weapons or defensive systems, but the sheer size of the vessels was intimidating. "Life signs?" Morrison asked. Dr. Rodriguez checked her medical scanners. "It's hard to tell with alien biology, but I'm detecting what might be life signs. Lots of them. If I had to guess, I'd say there are hundreds of thousands of beings on those ships." Morrison felt the weight of the situation settle on his shoulders. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for generations, but no one had imagined it would happen like this. Instead of meeting aliens as equals, they were finding them in desperate need of help. "Dr. Grant, can you determine what kind of help they need?" Grant had been studying the ship's energy signatures. "Commander, I think these ships are biological. Not just biological looking, but actually alive. They're like giant space-dwelling creatures that have been modified to carry passengers. And from what I can tell, they are dying." The implications hit everyone at once. These weren't just alien ships in trouble. They were living beings, and they were slowly dying in the cold emptiness of space. Inside them were hundreds of thousands of alien lives, all depending on their ship creatures to survive. "How long do they have?" Morrison asked quietly. "Based on the rate of decay I'm seeing in their biosignatures, maybe 2 weeks. Possibly less." Morrison looked around at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. Humanity was about to face its first real test as a member of the galactic community. They had found aliens, but those aliens were dying. The question was, what were they going to do about it? "Price, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've found alien vessels in distress and are beginning first contact procedures. Grant, I want you to figure out how to communicate with them. Everyone else, start thinking about how we might be able to help. We're not going to let anyone die on our watch, human or alien." Dr. Lisa Grant had not slept in 36 hours. She sat in her small laboratory aboard the New Horizon, surrounded by computer screens showing wave patterns, mathematical equations, and signal analyzes. Empty coffee cups covered her desk, and her hair was messy from running her hands through it while thinking. The alien signal was the most complex thing she had ever encountered. It was not just mathematics. It was music, poetry, and science all mixed together in a way that made her head spin. Every time she thought she understood one part, 3 more patterns would appear that changed everything. Commander Morrison walked into her lab carrying a fresh cup of coffee and a sandwich. "Doctor, you need to eat something," he said, placing the food on her desk. "Any progress?" Grant looked up at him with tired eyes. "Jake, this is incredible. These aliens think in ways that are completely different from humans. Their mathematics is based on flowing patterns, like water or music. Our math is rigid, like building blocks. Theirs flows like a river." She pointed to one of her screens. "Look at this. They are not just sending us numbers. They are sending us emotions, feelings, even what I think might be their version of art. The distress call is not just help us. It is, we are afraid. We are dying. We have children. Please, save our families." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. These were not just aliens asking for help. They were parents, children, families, all facing death together in the cold emptiness of space. "Can you talk back to them?" Morrison asked. "I think so. Pete Collins has been helping me modify our communications system. We have been trying to copy their signal patterns. But Jake, I am scared about what we should say." "What do you mean?" Grant stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the alien ships. "These beings are clearly much more advanced than us. Their ships are bigger. Their mathematics is more complex. Their technology is beyond anything we have. What if they see us as primitive? What if they think we cannot help them?" Morrison put his hand on her shoulder. "Lisa, they sent a distress call. That means they are desperate. Desperate people do not worry about who is offering help. They just want to survive." Grant nodded and returned to her work. 2 hours later, she had a breakthrough. The alien signal contained repeating patterns that seemed to be their version of prime numbers. If she could send back the same pattern, it would prove that humans understood mathematics. It would be like saying, "We are intelligent too." She called Morrison and the senior staff to her lab. "I think I can make contact," she announced. "Pete, are the modifications to the communications array ready?" Chief Engineer Collins nodded. "Ready when you are, Doc. We can broadcast on the same frequency they are using." Grant sat down at her modified control station. Her hands were shaking slightly as she prepared to send humanity's first message to an alien species. She had practiced the signal hundreds of times, but this was real. This would change everything. "Sending now," she said, and pressed the transmission button. The signal went out into space, carrying humanity's mathematical greeting to the alien ships. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then suddenly, all the alien ships lit up. They're bioluminescent. Hulls began pulsing with bright colors, and the distress signal stopped. "They heard us," Captain Brooks said in amazement. A new signal came back almost immediately. This one was different from the distress call. It was more complex, with layers of information that Grant's computers were having trouble processing. "What are they saying?" Morrison asked. Grant worked frantically to decode the message. "They are surprised. They did not expect anyone to answer their call. They are asking who we are and where we come from." Over the next several hours, Grant managed to establish basic communication with the aliens. She learned that they called themselves something that translated roughly to the people of the deep currents. In her notes, she started calling them Zephyrians because their language flowed like wind and water. The aliens were amazed that humans had found them. They had been drifting in space for almost 3 months after their ship's power systems had failed. They had sent the distress call, hoping that one of their own rescue ships might find them. But they never expected to be discovered by an unknown species. The leader of the alien fleet identified himself with a name that Grant translated as Flowing Current of Stars. He seemed curious about humans, but also worried. Through the mathematical language they had developed, he asked many questions about human intentions and capabilities. Morrison decided it was time to make direct contact. He asked Grant to translate a message for him. Tell him that we are humans from a planet called Earth. Tell him that we heard their call for help, and we want to assist them. Ask him what they need. Grant sent the message, and the response came. Back quickly, but when she translated it, her face went pale. Jake, we have a problem. A big problem. What kind of problem? Their ships are not just machines. They are living creatures. Giant space-dwelling organisms that the Zephyrians have domesticated to carry them between stars. The creatures are dying because they need a special kind of food that only exists. In Zephyrian space, Morrison felt his heart sink. How long do they have? According to Flowing Current of Stars, maybe 2 weeks before the creatures die completely. If that happens, all the life support systems will fail, and everyone aboard will die with them. Dr. Rodriguez had been listening to the conversation. How many aliens are we talking about? Over 200,000, Grant said quietly. Men, women, children, elderly. Entire families. Some of the ships are carrying refugees from their homeworld. The bridge became silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. How could a human ship with a crew of 48 people possibly save 200,000 aliens? Collins spoke first. What do these creatures need to eat? Maybe we can find a substitute. Grant consulted her notes. Something called trilithium-7. It is a rare isotope that helps the creatures regenerate their biological systems. Without it, they slowly starve to death. Do we have any? Morrison asked, though he already knew the answer. No. Humans have never even heard of trilithium-7 before today. Morrison walked to the window and looked out at the alien ships. They were beautiful in their own way, like giant jellyfish floating in space. But he could see that their glow was getting dimmer. They were dying, and everyone inside them was dying too. Dr. Grant, ask Flowing Current of Stars if there is anywhere nearby where we can find this. Trilithium-7. Grant sent the message and waited for a response. When it came, she looked even more worried. The nearest source is in Zephyrian space, 6 months away. Their own rescue ships are already coming, but they will not arrive in time. Even if they traveled at maximum speed, the creatures will be dead long before help arrives. Morrison made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need every available ship, every resource we can get. We are going to save these people. Captain Brooks looked at him with concern. Jake, we do not even know if it is possible. We have never dealt with alien biology before. We do not have the right materials or equipment. Ryan. 3 months ago, these aliens were living their normal lives. They have families, children, dreams, just like us. They did not choose to be stranded here. If we do nothing, we will be responsible for the deaths of 200,000 innocent people. Morrison turned to face his crew. I know this seems impossible, but humans have a long history of doing impossible things when lives are at stake. We are going to find a way to help them, even if we have to invent the solution ourselves. Grant looked up from her communication station. Commander, Flowing Current of Stars wants to know why we would help them. His people have never met humans before. He does not understand why strangers would risk their lives for aliens. Morrison thought for a moment, then said, Tell him that where we come from, we have a saying, we leave no one behind. It does not matter if they are human or alien. If someone needs help, we help them. That is what makes us human. Chief Engineer Pete Collins had been staring at the same computer screen for 4 hours. His eyes were red and tired, but he could not stop working. The screen showed the chemical structure of trilithium-7, a mysterious substance that the alien bioships needed to survive. The problem was simple to understand, but incredibly difficult to solve. The Zephyrian ships were dying because they could not get the special food they needed. Humans had never seen this substance before, and they had no idea how to make it. But Collins was not the kind of person who gave up easily. He had been an engineer for 23 years, and he had learned one important lesson. There was always a solution. Sometimes it was hidden, sometimes it was complicated, sometimes it required thinking in new ways. But there was always a solution. Commander. Morrison walked into the engineering section carrying 2 cups of coffee. Collins had been working without a break since they had established contact with the aliens 12 hours ago. "Any progress, Pete?" Morrison asked, handing him one of the cups. Collins rubbed his eyes and took a sip of the hot coffee. "Maybe. I have been studying the atomic structure of this trilithium-7 stuff. It is not naturally occurring, at least not in large quantities. The Zephyrians must have a way to make it artificially. Can we make it too? That is what I am trying to figure out. The good news is that it is just a modified form of regular lithium. The bad news is that the modification process is incredibly complex. It requires precise control of atomic fusion at a level we have never attempted before." Morrison sat down next to Collins and looked at the screen. The diagrams meant nothing to him, but he could see that his engineer was onto something. "Important. What would we need to make it work?" Collins pulled up another screen, showing resource calculations. "Well, we would need a lot of basic materials, which we can get from the asteroid belt in this system. We would need massive amounts of energy, which we can generate with our fusion reactors. And we would need to build equipment that has never been built before. How long would it take? If everything goes perfectly, maybe a week. But Jake, this is not just about building new equipment. We are talking about creating matter at the atomic level. One mistake, and we could blow up half the solar system." Morrison felt the weight of 200,000 alien lives pressing down on him. Every hour they waited, the bioships got weaker. Every day they delayed, more aliens would die when their life support systems finally failed. "Pete, I need you to make this work. I do not care if it has never been done before. I do not care if it is dangerous. Those aliens are counting on us." Collins nodded. He had expected this response from Morrison. The commander had never backed down from a challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. "I will need help. A lot of help. We should call in every engineer in the fleet, plus some of the best scientists from Earth." Morrison was already reaching for his communicator. "Consider it done." Within 6 hours, the New Horizon was no longer alone. 3 more human ships had arrived. The heavy industrial vessel Iron Forge, commanded by Captain Steve Turner, the science ship Deep Explorer under Captain Linda Hayes, and the hospital ship Mercy's Light with Dr. Karen White in command. The Iron Forge was exactly what Collins needed. It was designed for large-scale mining and manufacturing operations in space. Its massive industrial systems could process raw materials from asteroids and turn them into finished products. If anyone could build the equipment needed to create trilithium-7, it was Captain Turner, and his crew. Dr. Grant had been working with the Zephyrian engineers to understand more about their bioships. The aliens had agreed to share technical information about their creatures, hoping that human scientists might find a solution that Zephyrian science had missed. "Commander, I have learned something interesting," Grant announced during the daily briefing. "The Zephyrian bioships are not just transport vehicles, they are partners. Each ship has its own personality, its own intelligence. The Zephyrians do not control them like we control our machines. They work together like a team. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her medical reports. That explains why the aliens are so emotional about their situation. It is not just that their ships are dying. Their friends are dying. Morrison felt another wave of determination. This was not just a rescue mission anymore. It was a mission to save the friendship between two species and their living partners. Collins had been working with Captain Turner's engineering team to design the Trilithium-7 production facility. The plans were ambitious and dangerous. They would need to build a massive fusion reactor inside an asteroid, then use controlled nuclear reactions to modify lithium atoms one at a time. The biggest challenge is precision, Turner explained to the gathered officers. We need to change the atomic structure millions of lithium atoms without destroying them. It is like performing surgery on something too small to see while sitting on top of a nuclear bomb. Dr. White had been studying the medical data that the Zephyrians had shared about their bioships. I think I might have found something that could help, she announced. The bioships are not just dying from lack of food. They are also suffering from what we might call depression. Everyone looked at her with confusion. Think about it, she continued. These creatures have been partners with the Zephyrians for thousands of years. They are used to traveling between stars, exploring new worlds, living active lives. For 3 months, they have been floating in empty space, unable to move, watching their friends suffer. They are giving up hope. Morrison saw where she was going with this. You think we need to treat their emotional state as well as their physical needs? Exactly. I have been studying their biosignatures, and I think these creatures might respond to human medical techniques. Not the same drugs or treatments we use, but similar approaches. We might be able to help them feel stronger while Pete and his team work on the Trilithium-7. Grant had an idea. What if we could combine human and Zephyrian knowledge? Our engineering with their biology? Maybe together we can find solutions that neither species could discover alone. Collins looked excited for the first time in days. Lisa, that is brilliant. I have been thinking about this problem like a human engineer. But what if I think about it like a Zephyrian bioengineer? Over the next 2 days, something amazing happened. Human and Zephyrian scientists began working together directly. Using the translation system that Grant had developed, engineers from both species shared ideas and techniques. The Zephyrians were amazed by human creativity and problem-solving abilities. Humans approached problems from directions that Zephyrian minds had never considered. When Zephyrian science said something was impossible, human engineers said, "Let us try it anyway and see what happens." The humans were equally impressed by Zephyrian biotechnology. The aliens had learned to work with living systems in ways that humans had never imagined. Their bioships were not just alive. They were partnerships between biology and technology that created something greater than either could achieve alone. Collins made his breakthrough on the 3rd day of joint research, working with a Zephyrian bioengineer named Gentle Tide Rising. He discovered that the bioships themselves could help produce the Trilithium-7 they needed. It is incredible, Collins explained to Morrison. The bioships have specialized organs that can process raw materials and turn them into the substances they need. They are like living chemical factories. We just need to give them the right raw materials and enough energy to power the process. Morrison felt hope for the first time since the crisis had begun. How long will it take? If we can get the bioships the materials they need, they can start producing Trilithium-7 within 48 hours. The process will be slow at first, but as they get stronger, they will be able to produce more. Turner had already begun mining operations in the asteroid belt. His massive industrial ships were extracting the raw materials that the bioships would need. It was a race against time, but for the first time, it looked like a race they might actually win. as Morrison watched human and alien engineers working side by side. He realized that something historic was happening. This was not just a rescue mission. This was the beginning of a partnership between two species that could change the galaxy forever. Lieutenant Ben Parker had never been inside a living spaceship before. As he floated through the entry port of the first Zephyrian bioship, he felt like he was being swallowed by a giant sea creature. The walls around him pulsed with a soft blue light, and he could hear what sounded like a heartbeat echoing through the corridors. Parker was leading the first human team to board the alien vessels. His job was to install the temporary life support systems that would keep the aliens alive while the bioships recovered. It was the most important mission of his career, and he was terrified. Behind him floated Dr. Amy Rodriguez and two engineering specialists from the Iron Forge. They carried equipment that had been designed and built in just 2 days, based on the combined knowledge of human and Zephyrian scientists. Nobody knew for certain if it would work. The Zephyrian who met them at the entry port was unlike anything Parker had ever imagined. The alien was tall and graceful, with smooth blue-green skin and large eyes that seemed to hold the depth of an ocean. When it moved, it flowed like water, and when it spoke, the translation device made its voice sound like distant waves. "Welcome aboard the Living Current," the alien said through the translator. "I am called Soft Rain on Leaves. I will guide you to where your equipment is needed most." As they moved deeper into the bioship, Parker began to understand what Dr. Grant had meant when she said these vessels were partnerships between the aliens and living creatures. The corridors were not built, they were grown. The walls breathed, the floor yielded slightly under their feet, and everything had the organic curves of natural life. They passed through several chambers where Zephyrian families were gathered. Parker saw alien children playing games that involved creating patterns of light with their hands. He saw elderly aliens sitting in circles, sharing what looked like memories through some kind of telepathic connection. He saw parents holding their young ones close, worry clear in their large eyes. How are they handling the situation? Dr. Rodriguez asked Soft Rain on Leaves. "We are frightened," the alien replied honestly. "Our ship partners have been with our people for thousands of your years. We have never faced the possibility of losing them. It would be like losing part of our souls." They reached the central chamber where the bioship's life support systems were located. Parker had expected to find something like a human mechanical room with pipes and pumps and control panels. Instead, he found something that looked like the inside of a living heart. Massive organic tubes pulsed along the walls, carrying what looked like glowing blood through the ship's systems. In the center of the room grew a tree-like structure that seemed to be the brain of the entire vessel. Its branches glowed with soft light, but Parker could see that the light was getting dimmer. "This is our ship partner's mind," Soft Rain on Leaves explained. "She is very weak now. She has been using her own life energy to keep us alive, but she cannot continue much longer." Dr. Rodriguez immediately began setting up her medical equipment. She had spent days preparing for this moment, working with Zephyrian doctors to understand how the bioships functioned. The treatment she was about to attempt had never been tried before. "Ben, start installing the backup life support systems," she ordered. "I am going to try to stabilize the ship's condition." Parker and his team began the delicate work of connecting human technology to alien biology. The interface systems they were using had been designed by Collins and the Zephyrian engineers working together. They were a hybrid of human electronics and Zephyrian biotechnology, unlike anything that had ever existed before. As Parker worked, he could feel the ship responding to their presence. The walls seemed to pulse more strongly when he touched them, and the organic systems began to glow, brighter as the human equipment came online. "It is working," Soft Rain on Leaves said with amazement. Our ship partner says she can feel new strength flowing through her systems. Meanwhile, on the Iron Forge, Captain Steve Turner was overseeing the most complex mining operation in human history. His massive industrial ships were extracting raw materials from 3 different asteroids simultaneously, processing them into the exact chemical compounds that the bioships needed. The operation required perfect timing and coordination. Turner's crews were working around the clock, processing millions of tons of asteroid material every hour. The refined materials were then loaded onto transport ships and delivered to the Zephyrian fleet. Chief Engineer Collins was stationed aboard the largest bioship, working directly with the vessel's biological systems to begin the Trilithium-7 production process. The experience was unlike anything he had ever encountered as an engineer. "It is incredible, Jake," he reported to Commander Morrison over the communication system. "This bioship is like a living factory. I am not giving it instructions like I would to a computer. I am making suggestions, and it decides how to implement them. It is like working with a brilliant partner who understands chemistry better than any human scientist." The bioship had specialized organs that could manipulate matter at the molecular level. With Collins' guidance and the raw materials from Turner's mining operation, these organs began producing the Trilithium-7 that all 12 ships desperately needed. The process was slow at first. The bioships were weak, and their production organs had to be coaxed back to life carefully. But as the first doses of Trilithium-7 began flowing through their systems, the ships started to recover. Dr. Corinne White had established a mobile medical center aboard one of the bioships, treating Zephyrians who had become ill during the long months of crisis. Working with alien biology was challenging, but she discovered that many human medical techniques could be adapted for Zephyrian physiology. "Their biology is surprisingly similar to ours in some ways," she reported. "They have circulatory systems, nervous systems, even something like an immune system. The main difference is that their bodies are designed to work in partnership with their bioships. They are literally connected to their vessels through biological links." This discovery led to an important breakthrough. White realized that the bioships were not just transportation for the Zephyrians. They were part of their extended family, connected to them through biological and emotional bonds that went deeper than anything humans had ever experienced with their machines. As the rescue operation continued, human and Zephyrian crews began working together more closely. Language barriers were overcome through the universal languages of mathematics, engineering, and the shared desire to save lives. Parker found himself working alongside Zephyrian technicians who taught him how to communicate with the bioships directly. By placing his hands on certain organic interfaces, he could actually feel the ship's condition and needs. It was like having a conversation without words. The breakthrough came on the 4th day of the rescue operation. The largest bioship, which the Zephyrians called Great Depths of Wisdom, suddenly began glowing brighter than it had in months. Its Trilithium-7 production organs had recovered enough to begin creating surplus material that could be shared with the other ships. Collins watched in amazement as the bioship began extending organic tubes toward its companion vessels. The ships were sharing the life-giving substance among themselves, helping the weakest vessels first. "They are taking care of each other," Collins reported to Morrison. "Just like the Zephyrians take care of their families, the bioships are taking care of their family members." Within hours, all 12 bioships were showing signs of recovery. Their lights grew brighter, their biological systems began functioning normally, and most importantly, they began producing enough Trilithium-7 to sustain themselves independently. Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the alien fleet come back to life. The bioships were moving for the first time in months, stretching like animals waking up from a long sleep. Their bioluminescent displays were creating patterns of light that the Zephyrians told him were expressions of joy and gratitude. Commander, Dr. Grant called from her communication station. Flowing current of stars wants to speak with you directly. Morrison walked over to the communication panel. Through the translation system, the alien fleet commander's voice came through clearly. Commander Morrison of the humans, our people will never forget what you have done for us. You found us dying in the void, and you brought us back to life. You did not know us, but you risked everything to save us. This is a debt that can never be repaid. Morrison thought carefully before responding. Flowing current of stars, we did not save you to create a debt. We saved you because it was the right thing to do. Where we come from, we believe that all intelligent life has value, whether human or alien. The response came back quickly. Then perhaps it is time for our peoples to know each other better. 3 weeks later, Commander Jake Morrison stood in the main assembly hall of the Great Depths of Wisdom, the largest of the Zephyrian bioships. The space around him was filled with both humans and aliens, all gathered for a ceremony that would change the course of galactic history. The bioship had grown this special chamber just for the occasion. Its walls curved like the inside of a giant seashell, and they glowed with soft colors that shifted like this aurora on Earth. The floor was made of a living coral-like substance that felt warm under their feet. Morrison wore his dress uniform, but he felt strange being so formal in a place that was literally alive. The bioship seemed to sense his discomfort, and the walls near him began glowing with gentle blue light that somehow made him feel more relaxed. Flowing current of stars floated gracefully to the center of the chamber. The Zephyrian leader had recovered fully from the crisis, and he moved with the fluid grace that his people were known for. When he spoke, his voice carried easily through the living acoustics of the bioship. Friends of two worlds, he began, the translation system carrying his words to every human present. We gather today to celebrate something that has never happened before in the history of our people. We gather to welcome a new species into the family of galactic civilization. Morrison felt his heart beat faster. He had hoped for this moment, but he had not dared to believe it would actually happen. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as one of the most advanced and peaceful species. If they were willing to sponsor humanity's entry into galactic society, it would open doors that might otherwise remain closed for centuries. Dr. Lisa Grant stood near the translation equipment, tears in her eyes. She had spent her entire career preparing for first contact, but she had never imagined it would lead to this moment. Her work in establishing communication between humans and Zephyrians had made this ceremony possible. Commander Morrison, flowing current of stars continued. Your people found us when we were dying. You risked your lives to save strangers. You shared your knowledge and your resources without asking for anything in return. You have shown us that humanity possesses the greatest quality any species can have, compassion. Chief Engineer Pete Collins was also present, along with Captain Steve Turner, Dr. Karen White, and dozens of other humans who had participated in the rescue operation. They had all been invited to witness this historic moment. Collins still could not believe what it had accomplished. Working with Zephyrian bioengineers, they had not only saved the alien fleet, but they had also developed new technologies that combined human mechanical engineering with Zephyrian biological systems. These hybrid technologies were already revolutionizing both species' understanding of what was possible. The Zephyrian Confederacy has made a decision, Flowing Current of Stars announced. We will sponsor humanity's entry into the Galactic Council. We will share our knowledge, our technology, and our friendship with your people. But more than that, we will tell every species in the galaxy about what you have done here. Morrison stepped forward. Flowing Current of Stars, we are honored by your offer. But I want you to know that we did not save your people to gain anything for ourselves. We did it because we believe that all intelligent life deserves to survive and thrive. The Zephyrian leader's large eyes seemed to smile. Commander Morrison, that is exactly why we know your people are ready to join the galactic community. You have shown us that humans understand the most important truth in the universe. We are all connected, and we are all responsible for taking care of each other. The ceremony continued with a formal exchange of gifts and symbols. The Zephyrians presented humanity with a biocrystal that contained the genetic patterns of their ship partners. This gift would allow humans to grow their own bioships if they chose to learn the necessary techniques. In return, Morrison presented flowing current of stars with a golden plaque that contained the mathematical formulas for the hybrid life support systems that had saved the alien fleet. It was a symbol of the cooperation between their species and the new technologies they had created together. Dr. Grant had prepared a special message for the occasion. She had worked with Zephyrian poets to create something that would be meaningful to both species. Today, two rivers meet and become one stronger river, she read in both English and the musical language of the Zephyrians. Today, two species reach across the void and discover that we are not alone. Today, we learn that friendship has no boundaries and help has no limits. As the ceremony concluded, Morrison found himself thinking about the future. The rescue operation had been just the beginning. Already, plans were being made for joint research stations, cultural exchange programs, and shared exploration missions. Captain Ryan Brooks approached him with a message pad. Jake, we just received word from Earth Command. They want you to serve as the first human ambassador to the Zephyrian Confederacy. Morrison was not surprised. He had expected this offer, and he had already decided to accept it. The relationship between humans and Zephyrians was too important to leave to chance. What about the New Horizon? He asked. Captain Turner has volunteered to take command. He says he wants to continue the joint engineering projects with the Zephyrians. Morrison nodded. Turner was a good choice. The big man had developed a real passion for bioship technology, and he had already proposed several new research initiatives. Dr. White had also been offered a new position. The Zephyrian Medical Council wanted her to help establish the first interspecies medical research center. Her work in treating both humans and Zephyrians during the rescue operation had impressed alien doctors throughout the galaxy. Collins was staying with the fleet to continue his work on hybrid technologies. He and his Zephyrian partner, Gentle Tide Rising, had become close friends and collaborators. Together, they were developing new types of equipment that combined the best of both species. Engineering approaches. As the humans prepared to return to their ships, flowing current of stars approached. Morrison one final time. Commander, I have a question that has been troubling me. Why did your people decide to help us? Your species is young and still learning about the galaxy. You could have ignored our distress call and continued on your way. Why did you choose to risk everything for strangers? Morrison thought about the question for a long moment. It was something he had been asked many times during the past few weeks by both humans and aliens. I think it comes down to something very simple, he finally said. We help because we hope that if we were ever in trouble, someone would help us. We save others because we want to live in a universe where people save each other. The Zephyrian leader seemed satisfied with this answer. Then I believe your species will do well in the galactic community. You understand that we are all part of something larger than ourselves. 6 months later, Morrison stood on the observation deck of the first joint human Zephyrian research station. Through the transparent walls, he could see Earth's sun in the L distance, and closer by, the blue-green glow of Zephyrian bioships moving between the stars. The rescue operation had changed everything. Word of humanity's actions had spread throughout the galaxy, and other alien species were beginning to make contact. The universe suddenly seemed much smaller and much more friendly. Dr. Grant had established a communication center. that was already in contact with 17 different alien species. Her translation protocols, developed during the crisis with the Zephyrians, were being used to establish diplomatic relations across the galaxy. The hybrid technologies developed during the rescue were revolutionizing space travel. Bioships that combined human engineering with Zephyrian biology could travel faster and farther than anything either species had built alone. Most importantly, the galaxy now knew that humanity could be trusted. When other species encountered problems, they began calling for human help. Earth's reputation as the species that would rescue anyone in need had spread to every corner of known space. Morrison watched a group of human and Zephyrian children playing together in the station's garden. They were the first generation to grow up knowing that the universe was full of friends, not enemies. As he watched them play, Morrison realized that the greatest achievement of the rescue operation was not the technology they had developed or the diplomatic relations they had established. The greatest achievement was the proof that different species could work together, trust each other, and become friends. The universe was a big place, but it no longer seemed empty. It was full of possibilities, full of friends, and full of hope.